live, so if he is
Right.
Don't anyone say, repeat what the rabbi said.
So, can't tell the joke that Mr. Michael Silverwood told us about Australian kisses. No, okay.
It's the name of the host.
Is it a special occasion or not?
Nah, just wearing tie.
It's cool.
I wasn't semi-regularly.
Okay.
I got feel once in a while, like it's Shabbat.
Okay.
Yeah. I got a big phone. It's just like so big.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I intentionally went with the small one.
Yeah.
I like to fit it in the shirt pocket.
Everyone will think I'm filming.
Yeah, that's true.
Or everyone will know you're so. I won't know what it is.
Well, Shabbat Shalom. We're blessed to have Josh and Jess here with us today for our musical accompaniment. You know, guys, I've been thinking maybe we should rearrange this sanctuary or part where maybe this is right here, and then maybe a music stand and a microphone right here for the musicians. Yeah. I don't know.
Those conga station too?
Yeah. I don't know. I think now that we have consistent musical accompaniment almost every Shabbat at this point, it might be a time to change the way that we think about the format of our bima here. I don't know. Something to think about. Yeah. We definitely have the mic. But anyways, I'm going to invite Roy to start us off with lighting the Shabbat candles. Page 120.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
All right. Hang on. Prayer. Oh, good. Here we go. We are going to now continue on a page that I haven't figured out yet. What page? 128. Just for the win. Has that memorized? Is that I don't have, it's like a rabbi fail. I don't have it memorized. Me too. All right. 128 for Hine Matov. I'm going to step back so they can hear most of your voices instead of mine. Yeah.
הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד הנה מה טוב שבת אחים גם יחד שבת אחים גם יחד הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד.
Okay, we are moving on to Lachad D, which you can find on another page. There it is, 138.
לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבורך, השמיענו אל עמך. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, ושמו תפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך ומיורי. אורי, אורי, שדברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה וצולה. תוך אמונה עם סגולה, בואי כלה, בואי כלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
All right, I want you guys to stay there for Shalom Aleichem on 142.
שלום עליכם מלאכי השרת, מלאכי עליון. מי מלך מלאכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. בואכם לשלום מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. מי מלך מלאכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ברכוני לשלום מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. מי מלך מלאכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. צדקם לשלום מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. מי מלך מלאכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
That was great, I love that. Okay, moving on to page 144. Yitgadal v'yitgadav shemei Rabbah B'elma divrach cherutei v'yamlik malchutei B'chayechon uv'yoechon U'chayei l'chol Beit Yisrael Ba'gala Ba'gala Uv'izman kariv V'imaru Amen. Yehesh me Rabbah mevarach le'olam olam me'almayam v'yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yipramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale talal shemer kudusha barichu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata dami rabde alma v'imaru. Amen. We now move to the Baruch Hu on page 146.
Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruch hu et Adonai Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai Hamevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai Hamevorach le'olam va'ed. Le'olam va'ed.
And move over to Ma'ariv Aravim on page 148.
Umavir yom, umevil laila. Umavdil ben yom uben laila. Adonai tzvaot shemo, el chavechayam tamidim lo. Alenu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Hamariv Aravim. Umavir yom, umevil laila. Umavdil ben yom uben laila. Adonai tzvaot shemo, el chavechayam tamidim lo. Alenu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Hamariv Aravim. Ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la la la. Ya la la la, 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 ya la la la. Ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la la la.
We now read together on the top of 151 in the English. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We now move to the Shema on page 152. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. We now move to the Via Haftarah 154. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levacha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meyodecha v'hayu hadevarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayam al levavecha V'shinartam levarnecha b'divarta ba'am, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, u'v'techa ha'vaderech, u'shofpecha uvkumecha, u'kshartam leyot al yadecha, v'hayilototafot b'neinecha, u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha, u'visharecha, Leman tiskeru v'asitem et chol mitzvotai, v'tem kiroshim leloechem, ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeti etchem eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem lelohim, ani Adonai Elohechem. Adonai Elohechem emet. We now move over to the Micha Mocha on page 158. If you want to be seated, you can.
Ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 la
Now, oh wait, you're still up here. V'shamru, let's do it on page 162.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asod et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asod et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. B'nei umin, b'nei Yisrael, oti le'olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asod et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asar Adonai et hashemayim et haaretz. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asod et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. U'bayom hashvi Shabbat v'inafash, Shabbat v'inafash, Shabbat v'inafash. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asod et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam.
Okay, now we're moving to the Amidah on page 164. Adonai sefatai tita ufia ki tehilatecha
Geulah libnei b'neihem, L'man shemo be'alva. Melech Ozer u'Mashiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh kol atara le'yoshia. Mashik haruach u'morid ha'gashem, Mechayeh chayim b'chesed, Mechayeh ha'kol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim verofei cholim, u'matir asurim, u'mechayeh emunato lishenei afar. Michamocha be'al gevurot, u'midon elach. Melech memit u'mechayeh, u'matzmir Yeshua. V'ne'eman atah l'chayot ha'kol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh ha'kol.
Now I'm going to continue silently, and we'll come back together on page 180 for Osei Shalom.
Osei shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, v'imru, amen. Osei shalom bimroma, Yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, v'imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol
fellas. Okay, now a few words of Torah. So we have a long and proud tradition of cooking. In Judaism, it's rather famous for its recipes and recipe books. Our recipes are full of exotic spices and flavors from all the places of the diasporas that Jews have lived. Our cooking and recipes are an extension of our Jewish culture and history. And I often joke that the altar of the Jewish home is in the kitchen. And that's where all the Jewish magic happens, in the Jewish home. So it's fascinating that in this week's Torah portion comes with a recipe. It's both a recipe to have a meal, but it's also a recipe to avoid having your firstborn harmed from the 10th plague in Egypt. These dual purposes make for some very strange directions. Since there doesn't seem to be a name for this recipe, I'm going to call it roasted lamb chop. First thing it requires is a yearly lamb without blemish. You need to let it stand until the 14th of the month, and after that it needs to be communally slaughtered and butchered. You need to separate the blood from the meat and put the blood in a basin. With a bundled hyssop, you brush the blood from the basin onto the 2 doorposts in the top of the entrance of your home. Next, roast. Do not boil the meat. Roast the head, the legs, and the entrails over a fire. Do not eat it raw. Serve with unleavened bread and use bitter herbs to taste. And the recipe does not end here. In fact, it offers some super helpful advice on how to eat the roast lamb. It states first you need to gird your loins. Now, I never really understood what this statement means. It's even more confusing when used in the context of something made from a recipe. The best thing I can guess is that you got to get ready to eat it by summoning courage. Perhaps it doesn't look that tasty. I can imagine meat cooked on an open flame may look a bit uneven, especially with the lack of modern grilling technology. So apparently, you need to prepare for the fact that this is not a great-looking food that you're about to put in your mouth. Anyways, next it says that before you consume this lamb, you need to be wearing footwear, and have a walking staff in your hand. The recipe also suggests that you eat it fast, which I find complicated if you have to eat it with a walking stick in your hand. And the final directions of the recipe is to not leave your house until morning. Most recipe directions really only stick to directing you to the ingredients you need and how to cook them. I've not read too many recipes that offer directions on how to eat your meal, what to wear while eating it, where to brush the leftover blood of the meal, and when you can and cannot leave your home. Certainly the Torah makes strange interpretations on what is required of a recipe. However, the recipe does accomplish a couple of important things. It fills you full of roasted lamb, it gets you ready to be on the go, and it prevents your firstborn from being killed by the 10th plague. I would say that this recipe is very bold on what it's attempting to accomplish. But I would also argue that keeping you alive is an important goal for all recipes, and here this one is quite successful. No one is dying from raw meat or the 10th plague if you follow the recipe to the letter. And not all recipes provide a narrative. What I love about Jewish recipes is that they often do. Almost every Jewish recipe book my family owns have stories of who made the recipe and why it's important. Recipes with narrative is an awesome Jewish tradition that may have started right here in this week's portion. We are a people whose traditions are steeped with meaning, and we have come to honor this meaning through the food that we cook. So while I admit it's a strange way our Torah asks the Israelites to follow the recipe of roast lamb chop, I think it fits within how our people understand recipes. After all, they tried to kill us, they didn't succeed, so let's eat. Thank you. We're now going to move on to the Misha Berach, the prayer for healing, on page 371 of our prayer books. In our own community, we're thinking about these members: Tina Mink, Chris Converse, Jennifer Eskridge, Ian Clift, David Tobias, Katie Flagel, Lindsay Raber, Micah Purdy, Cheryl Embriani, Laura Allen, Susan Super, Mary Jo Robinson, Melba Cook, Emmy Webb, Stephen Lamp, Russell Crass, Bill Ross, Alan Friedman, Russ Nog, Ross Rumack, Norma Haas, Ray Ellis, Judy Cantor, Carol Riven, Diane Kaplan, Craig Paulus, Philip Kaufman, Nicole Neeson, and Jane Anderson. If there is someone who you are thinking of, please feel free to say their names out loud or in your hearts. Okay, we're on page 371 of our prayer books for the Misha Berach.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe berach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We now move to the Elenian, which you can find on page 587 of your prayer books. Elenu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tefil le'oser breishi, shehu sam chalkeinu le'ached et shemo, g'mara aleinu l'hamlik malchuto, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now move to 591. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Love each of us with the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech. May we never lift up our hand, but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. V'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad u'shemo We now move to the mourner's Kosh, which you can find on page 598 of your prayer books. And the people who are the yardsticks that we're thinking about this week are Marvin Athey, Ann Kaminer, Max Friedman, Isidore Gutenberg, Jane Leon, Herbert Nachman, Sidney Rowitz, Nisil Rose, Brent Schamberg, Robert Spees, and Milton Zanman. If there's anyone who you are thinking of, please feel free to say their names out loud or in your hearts. Zikrunom livracha, may the memory be for a blessing. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabba, bi'ilma divrach riyoteh v'yamlik malchuteh, b'chayechon u'v'yamechon u'v'chayerechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'izman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarak le'olam u'lamei almaya, yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitbramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitoleh v'yitalal shemei kudashah barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'elman v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim alini v'akol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, alini v'akol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, Amen. Okay, announcements. So tomorrow we've got our text study, which starts at 10:30. And then it is a Torah Uncensored Saturday tomorrow at noon, which I'll be teaching at this time. And for me, my topic will be Judaism and Demonology. So if you want to learn about that, you can join us for Torah Uncensored. You can sign up on our website if you haven't yet. And that will be at noon tomorrow. And then religious school starts back up again on Sunday, but it'll be over Zoom. It'll be remote with the same time as before. So thank you for joining us for that. And then we have our morning minyan on Wednesdays at 8 a.m., which is really great. And then anything else I'm forgetting? No? I think, okay, let's just call it for that. All right, so let's work on that closing melody. What are we guys thinking?
Maya Fair Yom on 128.
Okay, perfect.
Maya Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Maya Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Maya Hayom. Shabbat Shalom. Maya Hayom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
All right, well, thank you. And Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.